Okay, I can just have some of the introductory remark. Just to thank again first for inviting me here to discuss issues of indigenous knowledge. I come from the Institute of Traditional Medicine, Muhimbili University of Health and Alliance Sciences in Tanzania. My presentation is on bridging indigenous knowledge and science for health. What I wanted to talk and emphasize is on created knowledge, the one which is in the indigenous knowledge and its relevance in health. And so I'll start talking, but when the slides come, I will then go with the flow of the slides. Yeah, we know that indigenous knowledge has contribution, and the real contribution is how we interpret and integrate it with the other source of knowledge. Can you go now to the next slide? Okay. Yeah, is how you interpret it and integrate with the other sort of knowledge, and they are really useful in solving some of the contemporary issues facing this world. I remember last year in March, when the Pope was giving his audience, he said that it was yet another opportunity to grow in reciprocal listening to indigenous people in order to learn from their wisdom and from their lifestyle. And at the same time, listening to scientists in order to benefit from their research. Also, when I was presenting, I mentioned that myth, beliefs, and societal norms, moral value, they have a contribution actually in the healing system. As you remember, the topic is on health. And this integrated to sustain the community. And somehow, some knowledge cannot directly be explained by the present methods and concepts, as I will be discussing now for this presentation. So when I decided to present on created knowledge, because I know this is, a set of knowledge which is carefully selected and organized, and it is expressed in terms of practice and the norms, but in it, there's a lot actually which can be rearranged for creating new idea and which can contribute to solving some of the problem. And indigenous knowledge may be thought as not science, or there's no science in it, but a simple definition of science is based on observation and experimentation. And if you have two people saying, I have experienced it several times and it works, and the other one says, I have experimented it several times and it works. Both experience and experimental, they show a consistency of systematic observation because they are based on having evidence. It's only the different ways. And it's not just indigenous knowledge which has different way of expressing, especially from modern science. In spiritual world, for example, I read Psalm 55, verse 8. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways," says the Lord. So even the Lord has different ways of doing things. And there's one narration in Luke 17:11-19, talks about Jesus healing the leper. You wonder whether it was due to the faith, to mercy, or the gratitude of the one who came to Jesus again. But all in all, those who dwell in that knowledge, they know better, and so they can explain better. And so I'm saying whether we bridge, we blend, we integrate, or we take all sort of knowledge in its holistic way, each knowledge actually must retain its integrity by contributing to strong unification of understanding of subject matter. I want now to give a case example of a curated community knowledge and science understanding about smelling rain. I hope this is a global experience experimented. The smelling rain. As in these indigenous people, we tend to learn through story. And here comes a story of two researchers going to a Maasai community. Maasai do cohabit with the wild animal. And so when this team was doing its activity in the village, one of the elders said, I smell the rain. I know it will rain. Okay, I said, I saw movement of ants on our way. And my colleague said, the elephant in the forest were sniffing too. Okay, there was a lady standing by. I think you can see her. She also said the donkeys are being bathing sands, and they seem to be very happy. And one elder calmly actually turned to us and said, yes, it is the end of drought. So what is in the smell and how does it predict rain? Of course, there are several compounds, molecules, and chemicals in the rain because it is actually part of air, as others have said. But one of the compounds is called geosmin, and this is the degraded sesquiterpene. It's a natural product. It means coming from a living thing. And IK uses pattern and the behavior of insects, birds, and animals in prediction of weather. And so, in a real sense, now we are breeding some ant-possessed highly sensitive antennae, which are capable of sensing minute chemicals, and this includes the geosmin, and some birds and animals also have sensitive chemical-mediated olfactory senses. What science established is there are some kind of ants which prefer starting forming a nest in the actinobacteria-rich soil. And this is mediated by geosmin as an attractant. The essence is that it is the ant will very quickly sense the geosmin and they actually prepare to save the queen and the generation. So geosmin compound is present in actinomycetes, and this is a type of bacteria. It grows in soil when conditions are damp and warm. And actinomycetes are well distributed in different ecosystems. So when soil dries out, the bacteria produces spores, which contain the geosmin. And when rain actually falls, it kicks these tiny spores into creating a sort of aerosol, the air pressure we feel. And it is this distinctive earth smell we often associate it with the rainfall. Now, what is all this as far as science for health is concerned? We know that in the ecosystem, it is composed of different chemical biology molecules. And this, especially for relevance of the topic I'm saying, can be expressed in terms of cellular function. For example, the olfactory function in human health and disease. Some chemicals do modulate part of the brain, and so they handle emotion and memory. One example is in express the feeling of well-being that is generated by your walk in a forest or along water bodies. You can also witness children, they do enjoy in paddles when it rains. Okay, and so to explain the flavor of the rain, the ritual was coined, but we see that more science has been in application, especially for elephants and camel, which uses this compound to allocate water bodies. Yet, it's not that science has failed to explain, but some of the knowledge is not fully elucidated to explain the full mechanism of geosmin in enlisting calmness to human. So to conclude, if you will allow me, just the last slide, I can say that when refer to the conversation about rain, which I just narrated, we see that indigenous knowledge, especially indigenous medical knowledge, seldom addresses the how, but it really explains the what and the why. And the what and the why. And this gives the replicable of what is happening, and it's a sort of experience. And just to assure that indigenous knowledge has a contribution, it's relevant in not only for conservation. We have scarce species, for example, and this creates actually ecology, which gives the chemical ecology, which is favorable for resilient health. So that can be said, and I thank you very much for your patience and for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.